Hello everybody, I am Nalini Rajagovindan and welcome to my channel Vaira Citadel. And today in this video we are going to see Teaching Aptitude, the first unit in UGC NET paper, the first paper, general paper. And in this video we are going to talk about objectives of teaching and Bloom's taxonomy, principles of teaching, and some modern concepts about teaching. And interestingly, I'm going to give you some assignments for you to think and answer. And definitely don't worry, it's going to be very easy. The objectives of teaching. See, any teaching should aim at developing knowledge, skills, and attitudes. It is otherwise known as KSA. K for knowledge and S for skills and attitudes, A. And also we know that knowledge pertains to cognitive domain and skills pertain to psychomotor domain and attitudes pertain to the affective domain. Now we have learned the three domains of knowledge: cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, and the affective domain. It's also otherwise called as KSA for short. So any teaching, the main aim of teaching should be to develop knowledge or some skills or some attitudes. Attitudes includes your ideas, beliefs, and your moral values, all that come under attitudes. And skills, you know, physical movements like dancing, swimming, or bicycling, riding. So there are a lot of skills involved, drawing. And so any teaching should aim at the development of this KSA. And also they should bring about some change in the behavior. That is the main purpose of teaching. So the entry behavior is different and the outcome behavior should be different. Whatever desirable behavior we want in the learner, it should come about through teaching. That is the main objectives of teaching. And they should develop good values and beliefs and ethics in the learners. And also they should aim at the overall personality development, not just the knowledge part alone. Any teaching, any education should develop all the other domains. Physical development should be there, mental development should be there, emotional development should be there, and moral development should be there, vocational development should be there. So it should aim at the total personality of the learners. And also any teaching should develop a sense of solidarity and brotherhood among the learners. And it should aim to prepare better citizens of tomorrow. So these are all the broad objectives of teaching. And now, when we talk about educational objectives, there are two different types. There are general and specific educational objectives. As the term itself implies, that the general objectives are very general, they are very broad, and the scope is very wide. And it can be broken up into many small specific objectives. And general objectives are always the first level of specification which come under aim. Aim is the much more broader. It includes everything. Aim includes the educational objectives, the general objectives, and the specific objectives. And among these three, the general objective, it is a statement which shows the trend of the curriculum. So they are so broad and the scope is so wide that they show where the education is going, what are the activities about. On the other hand, the specific objectives are very specific and they come under general objectives, and they are always formulated in terms of observable behavior. So when you mention any specific objective, you should know what is the outcome behavior is going to be. After teaching, what is that we can expect from the learner? What change in the behavior we can expect? So those are the specific objectives, and they are narrower when compared to the general objectives. And these educational objectives, both general and specific objectives, are very much used in lesson plans. As you all know that all the teachers are supposed to plan their lessons before entering into the classroom, where they have to give a list of the learning teaching activity that is going to take place, and the methods of evaluation, everything will be mentioned there. And the beginning of the lesson plan should contain the educational objectives in terms of general objectives and specific objectives. Whether it's a college teacher or teachers teaching in schools, they should become very much familiar with the educational objectives. Much more so because they are used in framing questions. See, the teachers, they have to frame questions for the examination or for the test or for the term test, cycle test, whatever it may be. So they should be familiar with the educational objectives. Without educational objectives, they cannot frame questions. It is not possible. So that is the reason why all the teachers should get a very clear idea of what are general objectives and what are specific objectives, and how to write them and how to frame questions, how to make use of them in lesson plans. And you should know the acronym SMART. What does it stand for? See, all the educational objectives should be SMART. What does it denote? It is an acronym for the characteristics of educational objectives. S stands for specific. So all the objectives should be very specific. You should know what is that you want from the student, what behavioral change you expect from the student. So you should be very specific. And it should be measurable. M stands for measurable. So instead of vaguely writing, give examples for educational objectives. Don't write it. Be specific and measurable. Give 4 examples so that you can measure it, and so the teacher can evaluate it, and she can give half mark for each objective. So they should be measurable. And A for attainable or achievable. So it should be realistic. You cannot give any educational objective which are unrealistic. They should be rooted on the ground. See, for example, suppose I tell you to write 10 essays in 1 hour. Is it possible? It is not possible. It is highly unrealistic. So all your objectives should be realistic. It should be achievable and realistic. And T for time bound. So you must take into consideration the time available for the students to complete that particular task. So always follow this rule. SMART. The educational objectives should be SMART. Specific, and they should be measurable and attainable or achievable, and they are relevant. Relevant to the context. R means relevant. They should be relevant to the context. Suppose in this unit, I told you there is going to be an assignment at the end. So I can give you assignment only what I have told you in this video about the educational objectives. I can't be asking something else from evaluation for assessment, what is norm reference test or what is criteria reference test, because that is out of context. That is not relevant to this topic. So they should be relevant, R, and T, time bound. So for everything, you know, there is a time limit. So accordingly, you have to frame your educational objectives. And talking about educational objectives, you should be knowing about Bloom. Bloom, as an American educational psychologist who had contributed a lot to the classification of educational objectives. I repeat, he contributed to the classification of educational objectives. So many students, I have come across many students, they know Bloom's taxonomy, they know the levels by heart and they are able to give them in order. But if you ask them the question, what is this taxonomy about? Taxonomy is classification, where the things are arranged in some order. So what is that? That are arranged in order. If you ask that question, many of them will not be able to answer it. So you should be knowing he classified, he grouped the educational objectives in order. So that is called as Bloom's taxonomy, and he has also contributed to a theory of learning called mastery learning, which we will be discussing in a later video. And so this is the taxonomy he proposed for the cognitive domain. Now we know that cognitive domain deals with all the activities that takes place in the brain. So he grouped them under 6 levels. He grouped the educational objectives under 6 levels, and these levels are in order. In the order of increasing level of complexity. The lowermost is occupied by knowledge level. And the next level is occupied by comprehension. And the third level is application. And the fourth level is analysis. And the fifth one is synthesis. And the sixth level, the highermost level, is evaluation. So what is knowledge? Knowledge is just remembering things. So just a list of the things. You are able to remember the names. You are able to remember the years. So that is only the basic level. That is knowledge level. And the next level is comprehension. Slightly above this knowledge is understanding. So some of the concepts you understand and then you remember also. The higher levels always include the levels which are below. So that is what the taxonomy is about. The topmost level will include all the levels below. So when I say evaluation, you should be proficient. The students should be proficient in all these lower levels. Suppose we say a student is in 6th standard. What do we mean? He has mastered or he had learnt all the requisite things from the lower 5th standard or 4th standard, 3rd standard, isn't it? That is the assumption we make. In the same way, in this taxonomy, we know that the topmost level, the 6th level, includes all the other 5 levels, and the level 5 includes all the lower 4 levels, and so on and so forth. So the knowledge is the lowermost level, which is just memorizing facts and ideas or concepts. And comprehension is slightly more above than the knowledge level, where you understand things. And then comes the application level, which is slightly above the comprehension level, where you can apply what you have learnt, whatever information, whatever ideas or whatever concept you have learned, you are able to apply in a real life situation. That is application. Then comes analysis. You are able to analyze something whole into its parts. Suppose we say digestive system, then you should be able to know the various parts of the digestive system. You should be able to tell about starting from the mouth and then the food pipe, esophagus, small intestine, large intestine, rectum. So you should know from the whole to the parts, the constituent parts of the whole. So that is analysis. And then comes the synthesis, where you are able, this is just the reverse of analysis. Analysis is splitting, dividing the whole into parts, and synthesis is combining the parts into the whole picture. So synthesis occupies the 5th level of Bloom's taxonomy, and then finally comes the evaluation. Evaluation is you justify your position, you justify your stand in any issue. So that is the highest level. Once you have mastered all these levels below, then only you can evaluate something. You can take your stand, you can take a position and explain, justify why is it so. So according to Bloom, the cognitive domain, he classified them into 6 different levels. And bias it in a pyramid form because always you have much more of information at the knowledge level, but as you go higher up and up, it narrows down. Your field of specialization becomes narrow, isn't it? So that is why they take up the pyramid form. And later on, this is the same classification what we saw in the previous slide. Bloom's classification, starting from knowledge to evaluation, 6 levels. But later on, Bloom's classification was revised by some other educationist. But basically it remains the same, but except a few changes which we are going to see now. The main change is they added ing. They changed this noun form into the verb form. So knowledge becomes remembering. I told you it involves memory. And comprehension becomes understanding in the revised classification. And application becomes applying. Analysis becomes analyzing. And here there is a slight change in the topmost level. The synthesis is elevated to the topmost level, creating. And the evaluation, which was originally in the topmost position, comes to occupy the level below creating. So these are the only 2 major changes they did to the Bloom's classification. And now, I'm not going to tell you exactly why they have revised it and what is the logic behind it. So that is the assignment for you, which I have given it in the last slide. So think over it and send your answers in the comment box. We will discuss the answers later. So you have to involve yourself in the activities for you to learn better. So in the revised Bloom's classification, there are only 2 changes. All the noun forms become the verb forms and by adding ing, and there is a slightly interchange in the topmost 5th and the 6th level. The topmost level is occupied by creating and 5th level by evaluating. The synthesis becomes creating and evaluation comes 1 step below creating. Alright? And this is as far as cognitive domain is concerned. Now, this is also cognitive domain. Don't get frightened about the various columns and a lot of writings. They are the same thing, but more description is there. For those who want to describe about each level more, just go through it. You need not memorize it. Actually, of course, you have to know the levels by heart, because as future teachers, or already you may be teaching somewhere, all the teachers, whether it's college or school, they must know these levels, especially in cognitive domain. Because I told you, you have to be preparing lesson plans where you will be using these levels, and also in preparing the questions for the any test or for your examination, you have to make use of this taxonomy, these levels, and also these verbs, and some of the examples are given here. And usually there are a lot of verbs under each level which you will be using in framing the questions or in writing the specific objectives. For example, you will be asking a question like define educational objective, define specific educational objectives, or define general instructional objective, or list the verbs used in knowledge domain. These are the question words. So we have listed all the verbs used in each level of the cognitive domain. Just go through it and try to learn these verbs which come under each level, because these are all very commonly used question words or the verbs. Of course, there are many much more verbs, and this is not an exhaustive list, but any book will give you the various verbs, but it is not necessary that you should learn it by heart. Just go through it at least once so that you can recognize it when you see it next time. Maybe in the question paper, you will be able to recognize it and pick the correct answer and say which level it belongs to. Suppose they tell you to design something, which level it belongs to? Synthesis, because you are synthesizing something new, designing, developing something new, organizing. That means you are combining many parts into whole. That means synthesis. And analysis, you are dividing the whole into part. So you examine it, carefully observe it and analyze it. So it comes under analysis. And for application, it is, I told you, application is using the information to complete a task. That could be any task in the real life situation. Suppose you learned a formula in a mathematics class, and then you are asked to compute the correct value. What are you doing now? You are applying that formula you have learned in the previous class to compute get the correct answer for that problem. So compute becomes application. You are applying that formula which you have learnt already. So it comes under application. And if you are able to give some examples, or if you are able to explain something, so which level you are in? You are in the second level, that is comprehension. The other name for comprehension is understanding. So if you are able to explain something, if you are able to give some examples to something, that means you have understood that concept. Then only you can describe it, then only you can explain it and give examples. So this action words, explain, comes under the level comprehension. So go through the entire list, and these are the same thing, but those verbs are used in framing the question from the same cognitive domain itself. So see, for example, define the various levels of cognitive domain. So this question comes from the knowledge domain, because I am asking you to define, list, and all this, test your memory. So you should be able to tell me there are 6 levels: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So you are telling it out of the memory. So define. And the next question is explain the purpose of cognitive domain. You are explaining something. That means you have understood what this level, knowledge level is, and you are able to explain it. Why is it? Because in this domain there are various levels of learning and understanding, and the student goes from the lower level to higher level. So you are going to give example for it. So this falls under comprehension level. And then write objectives for levels of cognitive domain. So for each of the thing if you are able to give educational objective, that means you have understood it, you have memorized it, the various levels, you understood what each level is about, and now you are going to apply it into using it. Then suppose you are writing the objectives in a lesson plan. You are using these educational objectives, these various verbs in your lesson plan. What does it mean? You are applying it in the real life situation. And you are framing a question paper correctly using all the levels of knowledge in the question paper in the proper order with proper weightage. That means you are applying it. So these are all various statements which are examples for the various level of understanding. And analysis, compare cognitive and affective. If you are able to compare, give the points of differences and points of similarity between cognitive domain and affective domain, that means you are in the next level of knowledge, that is analyzing, that you are able to analyze what are the similarities and what are the differences between. That means you have gained the knowledge of cognitive and affective domain, and you have understood the concepts, and you are able to apply it, and now you are able to analyze it. And the next level, design way to write objectives that combines all the three domains. See, I give you a task to write and prepare a question paper with questions including all the three domains of knowledge. KSA, knowledge, skill and attitude. Then if you are able to design a question paper giving equal weightage to all the three domains, using all the levels of each domain, using the proper verbs, that means you are designing a question paper and you are in the highest level, highest but one level, that is synthesis level. And evaluation. Suppose you are able to criticize the question paper prepared by somebody else, saying that this question paper does not contain any questions from psychomotor domain, so I won't accept this as a good question paper. So that means you are in a position to judge, you are in a position to criticize. So that means you have reached the highermost level of understanding, that is evaluation. So then affective domain, there is classification for affective domain also. Bloom did not classify the affective domains, and it was Krathul and so many others have done the classification. There are many classifications, you need not know all, but at least just one or two you should be familiar with them. And this affective domain, I told you, it deals with all your emotions and your attitudes, your values and your taste. And so here the level is receiving. They are entirely different from the cognitive domain. So in this they have grouped them under 5 levels. The first or the lowermost level is receiving, then responding, then valuing, then comes organization, then comes characterization. So they may sound very big, but actually if you take up an example and understand all these levels, then it should become easier for you to remember. So here an example is given, like for example in the playing badminton. So badminton is a game, you know. So you don't know anything about badminton, you are a novice. So suppose you listen to somebody speaking or talking about badminton, how they played, how they won the trophy. So then you are receiving, you are listening to them. You are attending to something with interest in the environment, or you are watching a match. So you are in the first level. You are in the receiving level. Then you go to the next level. That is, you respond. See, the next day also you go to the badminton court and you voluntarily help set up the nets there. What does it show? It shows your interest. So in the first thing, you just receive a stimulus from the environment. You are receiving. That's all, nothing more. And in the second level, higher level, you are responding with your action. You voluntarily go and set up badminton nets. And the third level, the still further up, you start valuing. So you show some definite involvement or definite commitment. So what do? You attend optional badminton match. So out of the way you go, you stay after the school hours and you attend some match. You stay till 6 o'clock in the evening, you watch it or you help the players. So that means you are valuing it. And then comes the next level, organization. You are integrating this new value. What is the new value here? Your interest in badminton. It may be listening to music or it may be some other skill. So here we are giving just one example of developing interest, not playing badminton. Playing badminton becomes psychomotor domain. But here developing interest comes under affective domain. You got the difference? So any interest, developing interest in going to the library or developing interest in listening to music, they all fall under affective domain, your heart domain. You should know the difference. And so the next higher level is organization, where you integrate the new acquired value when compared to other priorities. So now, look at the example, then you will be able to understand better. Always look at the example, Don't go for these words, these jargons. You know, they may confuse you, but just look at the simple day-to-day example. You will better understand the concept, then go to the words. So now see the example, purchase one own badminton racket. So you are spending money on your newly acquired interest. So you are again committing more. You are spending your pocket money on buying a new racket. That means you are integrating a new value into your personality. You are choosing this. Nobody has forced you to buy a racket, but you yourself, you are choosing it. You are preferring, you give preference to buy this rather than go to a canteen and spend your pocket money. You prefer to buy a badminton racket. That means this value of learning badminton you have taken up so seriously and you are organizing it into your personality. And then comes the highest level is characterization. That is, your every act of yours will be inconsistent with your new value. So what is the new value here? The playing badminton. So you join intramurals game to play badminton twice per week. You commit yourself. So every week, 2 times you are playing in the game for your school or for college. So you are committed now. So you are taking that value into your character. It becomes part of you. Nobody can stop you from playing badminton. So these are the various levels that goes into affective domain. So here this is only an example I have chosen as badminton. You can choose any example to explain the various levels. And the third domain, as we know, is concerned with the physical activities. Hands, the third H. First H for head or the brain, cognitive domain. The second H for hands, the psychomotor domain. And the third H for heart, which is the affective domain we just now saw. And the psychomotor domain, it pertains to your physical movements, any skill, physical skill. And here also this classification is given by Brayson. As I have told you, like in affective domain, there are many classification given by many educationists, but it is enough if you just know just one classification or two at the most. And the various levels are perceiving, patterning, accommodating, refining, varying, improvising, and composing. And like in all the other domains, they are in the increasing order from perceiving to composing, from lowest level to highest level. And see here the example given is about head stand movement. How do you stand on your head? It's a physical activity. So you know, standing on your head is very difficult task, involves all your muscle, your strength and your mental power. It needs a lot of practice. So the first step, first level in learning that is perceiving. So you recognize that movement, what it is about. You listen, you see others doing headstand movement. You observe and then you enjoy it. Then you keep watching it. Then you go to the next level, patterning. So you are reproducing the movement. You try to reproduce the same movement by yourself. You imitate it. See, you are going to imitate it. You practice it. That becomes the next level. Perform headstand following modeling. Whoever showed you that exercise, you are just following it. Here we are talking about headstand movement. It could be cycling or it should be car driving. You know what do you do first? You see others driving. Then you imitate it. You imitate as well. You sit in the steering wheel and you move your hands. So you reproduce the movement. And then comes the accommodating level. Then you use the movement, particular movement, slightly modify the movement. And you adjust accordingly, according to your ability. And see, use headstand in routine. And then refine it. You are able to refine that movement, improve it, and slowly become master of that movement. See, demonstrating efficient control. So in performing that particular movement or that particular pattern of movement, that movement could be anything. A swimming stroke, the forward stroke or the backward stroke, the butterfly stroke. It could be anything. Here we are giving an example for that headstand movement. So now you are going to perform better. You are improving. How? By standing with the pointed toes, you are able to do headstand. So slight improvement is there. And the next level is varying. You are able to do it with slight variation in different ways. You could do it in your own ways. You design, you develop your own ways of standing on the head. Isn't it possible? You can do it, isn't it? So improvising. So you are originating some novel movement. So you construct or you invent your own movement. Okay, and that is the next level. And finally, it is composing. Composing means you are creating. See, something, if you are able to create, that means you are in the highest level. Creating something new, something unique on your own. So create or invent. So that forms the highest level in psychomotor domain. This classification, starting from perceiving to composing, ending in composing, is given by Brayson. And there is one more psychomotor domain classification by Day, which is also popular. Just get familiarized with the levels. See, the lowest level is imitation. See, we saw it, we saw it, it was in the level 2 of the Brayson classification. And then manipulation, then comes perception, and then come precision. See, any movement, precision should be there. In the beginning, you are just trying to imitate somebody, doing the same thing like somebody else. And as I have told you, you see your father or your neighbor driving, you go and sit in your car and you do, just give a pose. So that is imitation. Then you manipulate, you start manipulating the steering wheel. Then you have your own idea of how to do it. You perceive knowledge about which is clutch, which is the gear, and what is the brake, which one is accelerator. You perceive everything. And then precision comes. So once you practice, every day if you practice, then comes the precision. And then articulation. Articulation is combining the various skills, whatever you have learnt. So in the beginning you used to concentrate only on the steering wheel. Now you know how to change the gear. So your leg movements, eye movements and hand movements, you are able to, at the same time you are able to articulate the movements of various parts of your body. So you are able to put the signal, right signal, left signal, and you can use the rear view mirror. What are you doing here? You are articulating all the parts of your body in driving your vehicle. And then it comes, then the final stage, the highest stage of learning, that is naturalization. That is, you have imbibed all these levels into yourself and it becomes your personality, and you are able to do that act. In this case, what example we saw driving, it has become so naturalized. You are able to drive with the cell phone on. Sometimes you do it without even knowing that you are changing the gear, you are putting the signal, but you have landed the destination safely. What does it mean? You have naturalized all the movements that require for a safe driving. So that is the final level, highest level of learning for psychomotor movement. And so this is the classification given by Dave. And the next subtopic is principles of teaching. And there are certain principles to be followed in teaching. And the first and the foremost being the principle of activity. So always you should involve the students in some activity. What Benjamin Franklin says is that you tell me something I forget. You teach me something I remember. But you involve me, then I learn. See? So if you involve the students in some activities, if you involve them, their participation in the activity, they will really learn it. And the memory will last forever. So you should involve the students in some kind of activity in the classroom instead of just the teacher teaching. You have to involve them in activity. That is why today I am going to involve you. I am giving you some questions at the end, just 2 questions. Just go through it and answer it in the comment box and show your involvement and show your commitment to learning. Okay? And principle of interest. You know that you have to, the teacher, as a teacher, you have to kindle the interest of the students. You have to cater to their interest. And then comes the principle of linking with life. Always link your teaching with life example. If you keep on giving examples from the book, it will lead to boredom and monotony. The students will lose interest. But if you are going to link whatever they learn with the day-to-day activities, with the real life situation, how to solve the problems in real life, then the student's interest will be sustained. And your teaching should have a definite aim. As I told you, aim is a very comprehensive term. It includes all the objectives, the general objectives and the specific objectives. And what is the main aim of the teaching? Should be the development of the overall personality or the total personality, the all-round development. And selection, the teacher should use the principle of selection. What selection should she make? Selection of the content, selection of the methods, selection of the time, and selection of the teaching aids, and selection of the method of evaluation. So many selections are involved while teaching. So the teacher should be very careful in selecting, and according to the needs, desires, and the interest of the learners. And planning, as I have already told you, if you are failing to plan, that means you are planning to fail. So any teaching should involve a lot of planning. So that is why you should spend more time in you making your lesson plans, and in schools and colleges they give a lot of importance to the lesson plans. That is where the educational objectives come into greater help. I have told you that you should know how to write the objectives while preparing lesson plans, and you have to plan your activities, teaching learning activities, and you have to plan your resources, and you have to plan your method of teaching, and you have to plan what are the teaching aids you are going to use. Without planning, can you just get into the classroom and ask for a projector and a slide? Will you get it immediately? No, you should spend some time before you enter into the classroom in planning and getting things done. And also the teaching involves the principle of division. What is division? It's not multiplication or division, but it is the analysis part of it. Divide the whole into parts. That you cannot deliver the entire content in one day. So you have to divide the content, you have to divide the testing method. So go part by part. And the principle of revision, you know how revision helps in learning the matter efficiently. And democracy, the principle of democracy. The democratic climate should prevail in the classroom. We have seen in the last video what is autocratic environment, what is autocratic classroom climate, and what is democratic climate, and what is laissez-faire. And democratic climate, in a classroom, the students, they participate freely in all the activities, and they can even ask questions, and they can even criticize the teachers. So they take part in the decision making. So the teacher should take into the principle of democracy and the principle of individual differences. See, I have put a separate video on individual difference in Vaira Citadel. You can go through it both in English and in Tamil, where I have explained what are individual differences and how to cater to individual differences. You can cater to individual differences in the content and in the process, that is in choosing the method of teaching, and also in the product. What is product? In evaluation methods, the teacher can make changes and provide accordingly, according to the student's interest or student's needs or the student's ability. So that is what individual difference is about, and you can listen to that video. And simply, the teacher should be kind, and she should be accessible for all students, otherwise the students will run away. And reinforcement, you should give, you know, whenever, in order for the effective teaching to take place, the teacher should use the principles of reinforcement. So to make the teaching more effective, like giving verbal positive reinforcement like good, excellent. If I say, if you do your homework correctly, then what does the teacher say? Very good, excellent, keep it up. She gives stars, rewards. Sometimes you can use punishment, but punishment should not be very harsh, it should not be reprimanding, but it should be corrective punishment. And we should discuss about this topic later on in a separate video about what is positive reinforcement and what is negative reinforcement and what is punishment, everything in detail. But that is beyond the scope of this unit in teaching aptitude. And so it can be verbal reinforcement or in the form of some rewards. And non-verbal reinforcement like nodding your head, sometimes the teacher just nods her head for your answer. What does it mean? She's saying, yes, your answer is correct, I agree with you. Okay, the student is motivated to learn better. So that is non-verbal reinforcement. And these are some of the maxims of teaching you should be familiar with. That is the first maxim, simple to complex. Always go from simple concept to complex one. And known to unknown. Always teach them first the known things, then go to unknown things. Not the reverse. And from part to whole. You first teach each part separately, then show them the entire picture. And from concrete concept to abstract concept. Concrete concept, something which you can see or you can hear or you can touch or feel, and which are tangible. And first you teach those objects, especially to the children. You should go only in this order. And then teach them something abstract like honesty or intelligence. These are all abstract concepts. You cannot show them. What is honesty? This is honesty. What is intelligence? This is intelligence. You cannot show them. You can only explain them by means of illustrations. So they are abstract concepts. But always teach them first the concrete concepts like what they can see, like a school, which you can show them the school. And who is a teacher? Concrete concept. So go from concrete to abstract concept. And always easy to difficult, very well, that is the basic psychological principle. And particular to general. First teach them the part, then go to the whole or the general. And psychological is preferred to logical order. See, sometimes you have to know the psychological nature of the student. What do they want? Sometimes they don't like it. They are scared of it. So don't give that to them. Even though the logical order says that first this thing, then another one. You should give importance to the psychological preference of the student. That means their interest and motivation. So the preference is the psychological to the logical one. And while we were talking about from the specific to general in the previous maxims of teaching. So this gives rise to two different concepts, what are known as two different important concepts, the inductive learning and deductive learning. These terms you should be familiar with because many times questions are asked in NET about the difference between inductive learning and deductive learning. And inductive learning is from particular to general. You teach them first the particular, the specific, then go to the general topic. Or first tell them the example, then go to the rule. And then the deductive learning is just the opposite of inductive learning, where you talk about the general phenomena first, then you teach them the particular point. And you tell them the general rule or the general factors first, then tell them the specific one. And you first tell them the rule, then give them the examples. So if I tell you an example, you will understand it better. For example, in a classroom, a teacher is following inductive learning. In another classroom, B is following deductive learning. Now we will see what A does, what teacher B does. Teacher A takes a mango leaf and shows it to the students. Students see, this is mango leaf. What is the color of the leaf? They all shout green. Then the teacher A shows them the leaf of a hibiscus shoe flower plant and ask the students, what is the color of the leaf? The students say, green. You know, they all shout, green. And then she shows the leaf of a jasmine plant and asks the student, what is the color of the leaf? They shout, green. Then she shows a banana leaf. See, she took all the difficulty to bring the banana leaf from her house to show them. Or maybe she plucked it from the school, who knows. So she shows the banana leaf to the student and asks, what is the color of the leaf? They shout, green. Then finally she tells, now what do you infer from this? Then students themselves shout, oh, we know, all the leaves are green in color. So they discover the rule on their own. So this is called inductive learning. So especially for children, you should use inductive learning to arouse their curiosity. So you go from examples, they will come out with a rule. You go from specifics, they will state the general point. So in order to make the class interesting, so the teacher A is following inductive learning. But sometimes in higher classes, for want of time, the teachers do not always follow inductive learning. They straight away go to the class and tells the rule. Write the generalization on the board. All the leaves are green in color. She writes the general statement on the board and tells the students to verify it. And they go and verify, yes, banana leaf is green in color and jasmine leaf is green in color and hibiscus is green in color and mango leaf is green in color. So they go from the rule to the example. So this method of teaching, that is telling them first the general idea, then going to the particular idea, is called deductive learning. So if many of the students, they make mistakes, they confuse it, they change. They know inductive, they know deductive learning, but when it comes to explanation or picking up the correct answer, they choose the wrong thing. So always remember, this is egg rule. Example to rule, egg rule. Or this is rule egg. This is a mnemonic to remember, rule egg. From rule to example, rule egg, egg rule. So how I remember is, I give you a tip. I always remember one statement for both. That is, I deduce from generalization. So that's all. What does it mean? I deduce things. I learn or deduce things from generalization. So first I get the general idea, then I deduce things from it. So it is general to specific. That is deductive. The other way around is, if you know one thing, you can automatically infer the other, the opposite one. So I remember this statement, deduce from generalization. So if you start with generalization, it is deductive learning. And this is the two types of learning you should be familiar with. And coming to the modern concepts of teaching. So nowadays, what is given importance in the modern days while teaching? So nowadays, the emphasis is on the learner, not on the teacher. So it is always the emphasis on the learner, learner-centric methods, or the student-centric approach, or the student-centered classroom. So gone are the days when the teacher used to be the center of attraction for the class, but nowadays the emphasis is on the learner. So many questions, not many, few questions are asked in the NET exam, or the various options given, like what will you do in this situation? So see, many examples will be given. I don't want to go in. We will see questions separately in a separate video. We will discuss all the previous questions from NET papers in a separate video. But today, in this context, I would like to tell you that many options will be given. Like the teacher should report the incident to the parent. The teacher should punish the student. The teacher should call the parents, or the teacher should report it to the management. You know, giving importance to the for the teacher's personality or the school's identity, or the collection of the fees, fine, and all such things are included as distractors in the question. But you should look for what will benefit the learner. So all the statements you can just skip and look for the statement which emphasizes on the learner's ability, or which emphasizes on the learning activity of the learner. So give the utmost importance to the learner's benefit. So pick that choice wisely, and you can just right away eliminate all the other options emphasizing the teacher, or the emphasizing the subject matter, or emphasizing the school authority. See, all these are only secondary. The first and the foremost important thing is the personal safety of the learner, then the learning activity of the learner. So that should be the order. The first safety of the learner comes the foremost. The life of the learner comes to the front. Of course, you cannot compromise that for anything else. So after that, it is the learning activity of the learner. So choose that option whenever they trick you into many distractor options. Look for the option which emphasizes on the learners. And so, as I have told you, there is a saying which says the teacher is no more sage on the stage, but she is a guide by your side. So in olden days, the teacher used to be on the stage, never comes down, always commanding, dictating, instructing, indoctrinating. It no more holds water. Nowadays, it is the learner's importance is given a lot of preference, and the learner is given importance, and his interests are taken into consideration, and the democratic climate is given preference, and individual differences are taken into consideration. So the content is modified, the method is modified according to the individual's capability, and so the emphasis is on the learner. That is modern concept. And the next is the guide the learner. The teacher is always nowadays treated as a guide, or a mentor, or a facilitator. These are the new terms that are used for the teacher. She is now known as a facilitator, which makes things easy for the learner to learn. She need not always dictate or indoctrinate or trains the student. She just helps the student, guides the student. She is not a sage on the stage, but a guide by your side. Remember this? And the teacher should promote the all-round development, not just focusing on the cognitive development alone, but the moral development is important, the affective domain, the value development of values, inculcation of values, beliefs, ethics are also important. So the physical development, mental development, emotional development, and the moral development. So everything should be given importance, and the teaching should aim at promoting the all-round development of the personality. So these are some of the modern concepts in teaching. So when a question MCQ are given, you should remember what is given importance nowadays. So select the option wisely. And now comes the best part of the video assignment for you to act now. So here are the two questions. Why are the nouns in cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy changed into verbs? You know, I have told you the nouns in the Bloom's taxonomy in his cognitive domain are nowadays changed into verbs, like the knowledge has become remembering and comprehension has become, now it has come to be known as understanding. So why? What is the logic behind it? So go through the slide. I think it is I will give you a clue. It is in the 5th slide. So go through it and give me your answer in the comment box, so that I will know whether you have clearly understood the concept, which level of understanding you are in, which level of Bloom's taxonomy you occupy as a learner. And the second question is why there is a reversal in the position of evaluation and synthesis in the taxonomy of educational objectives in cognitive domain. Again, in the cognitive domain, it is asking why there is a change in the position of the, I told you the position or evaluation has come to occupy the next level, the 5th level, and the synthesis goes to the topmost level. Why? What is the logic behind it? Yes. And give me your answer in the comment box. It is a time for you to act, think and act. So we have come to the end of the slideshow, and this is as far as the Teaching Aptitude Part 2 is concerned. I'll come up with the next video next week on the most important and interesting topics, that is the phases of teaching, the models or theories of teaching and evaluation. What are the various types of evaluation? And so till then, bye bye, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel Vaira Citadel. Thank you.